Hello, it's Nancy today again. Now my batteries ran out the other day. I made the sponge. Remember the bread sponge, which was just those three ingredients: water, wheat, and yeast. I put it in the oven with the oven just warm, and then I turned the oven off. I turned it to 350, turned it off in 5 minutes, so it was just a warm oven. I put my sponge in there to mix, or to rise. Okay, now here is the sponge. I just put, let's see if I can do this properly. I just sprinkled it with flour. Now I haven't done anything to it yet. Where did that spoon go? I was going to use a flat spoon, where's my flat spoon? Here it is. Okay, down here. I hope you can see this all right. Okay, so you put the flour on, and now you see how this is it was a beatable mud, right? So I've just added that 1 cup of flour. Okay, and you turn the bowl a quarter turn while you put your spoon in, and then you just flip it over. You're not going to dig through that anymore. That doesn't do nice things. It wrecks the gluten. Okay, now when it's almost incorporated, you add another cup. Now remember, it didn't matter how much water you put in, because you'll just be adding flour until it won't hold anymore. Check and make sure the camera's on it. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay. So you keep doing this. Okay, I'll put in another cup now because I'm starting to see shiny stuff. It's wet. And sometimes you can put your flour just down around the bottom of it. See, scrape it so that it's actually going to land on the pile of flour, you see? See how it's holding together better now? It's not a big mud pile anymore. But that mud pile was very important. Because of that mud pile, that develops the gluten. You need a lot of gluten. Is the stringy stuff that holds bread together. Instead of like cake where it all falls apart, if you're going to cut bread and make a sandwich, you need it to stay together. Now I'm pushing on this a little bit when I'm coming over. I'm not pushing hard. I don't want to go down into it. Now you see this? See how it's all wet? Well, I can actually just put my cup of flour, a lot of it down there on the bottom, because it's gonna lean into it, you see, and it's gonna pick it up as it rolls around on there. Now when this becomes dry enough that it doesn't look like it's going to be a huge mess on your hands. It will be a mess on your hands, but it will not be a huge mess if you wait until it's sort of dry. Sort of. Okay? Now you take all this stuff here off. You scrape that all into your bowl. You don't want to waste it. Use anything that you want to use. And get all that off and put it back into the bread. Okay? Now you've washed your hands. This is where you start. Now you start at the far away from you. You pull it up and you bring it towards you and you push it back. You turn the bowl. Now it feels like it's sticking down here a bit. I'll add some more flour underneath it here. Okay. I've been making bread like this for, I guess, about 25 years, or 28 years. I used to make bread every Monday. I made 4 loaves of it, like this. I decided that things are all getting too expensive, so we're going to start saving money, or pay off everything that Christmas, So I'm making my own bread, doing all these things I can think of doing so that I don't have to spend money. Now I was out of eggs when I was making something else. If you're ever out of eggs, you don't need it for this bread, remember that. If you're ever out of eggs, all you have to do is cook up some oatmeal. Make it slimy and stretchy, gooey. That'll substitute for an egg. Now you see how it's getting nice and elastic here. See how nice it looks? See how it holds together? Okay, now whole wheat bread is supposed to be a little bit sticky. See, it is a little bit sticky. White flour, when you're making white bread, that you can make it as dry as you can. But whole wheat is still supposed to be a little bit sticky. Okay, now I use this. I didn't make a mess on the table. You see, I just used this big bread bowl. You could have done this on your counter. Put a pile of flour on it, then dump your dough out onto it. Makes the oven ready for something else. Okay, now I don't need the rest of that. I could take that out. And I'm going to put some oil in my bowl. Now you don't have to. If you don't have oil, you don't have to. This is sort of a luxury. People that are broke never need to put the oil there. I don't know if you're saving lots of money. But this is a wooden bowl, and I like to put it on there. I've got the oil. So I put it on there and I turn my loaf over. You see how I did that? See how I put it on the front, and then I sort of scooted it around the edge to make it go up, to bring the oil up onto the bowl itself. And I turn my bread over. Now this will keep this, now when this rises, it won't dry out. Some people put a towel over it. You don't really need to put a towel over it. I never have. I didn't like it when the towel got stuck to the bread and then it made a big mess. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that there and let it rise now. It's in a warm place. It's sitting on top of the hot oven. So there you go. Okay, now this is the second step. We mixed up the sponge. Now this part was incorporating a lot of flour into the sponge. We've still only got 3 ingredients: water, wheat, and yeast. You don't need sugar. Yeast will rise without it. If you use the instant quick rising yeast. Even if you use the regular yeast, it'll still rise without sugar. Don't put salt in. If you put salt in, it inhibits the yeast. So the more salt you put in, the more yeast you're going to end up needing, or you're going to have a heavier bread or take a lot longer to rise. So we'll let this sit now until it's double. Then we'll come back to it. Okay, so this is part 2. Nancy today, signing off.